Ladies and gentlemen, again, this episode, we are doing a series of conversation with many leaders from across the world, especially those who are linked with Silk Road 4.0 and for participating in the Global Future Summit happening on 28th of November. And this summit is specially highlighting AI and the various aspects around it. And we will be having the conversation today. This interview series is made possible that we at Diplo TV, Diplomatic Insight, is collaborating with Silk Road 4.0 so that we can bring forward the raw conversations with you, those people who had made their mark. Today, we will be speaking today with Stacey Nduta, who has joined us from representing a vibrant continent. Stacey is one of the important part of this conversation that we are having at the Global Future Summit. Stacey is a dynamic leader and has a consultancy experience and also a community strategist with a passion for driving innovation and growth across African continent. And since her experience is based on not only both at the community engagement but also at the policy level, the conversation will highlight how this is made possible. So let us begin. Thank you so much, Stacey, for confirming your presence here with us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Stacey, let us begin with you. Because what is important is that your journey, how your journey from across Africa, East Africa especially, and the landscape, innovation landscape that we are looking at, what has personally drive you to do the work that you're currently doing and connecting the community work that you've been doing with the policy making work that you're pursuing? So let us begin with your vision, your ideas, what the young Stacey was looking at.
Okay, thank you for that question. Essentially, how I ended up in the innovation landscape was through working with startups, not just in the nonprofit world, but also as a consultant. I saw the gap between the quality of talent in the market and some of the conversations we're having at the conferences, and realized the gap can't just fill itself. It actually means we need to get our hands dirty and do the work. So that's essentially what I've been working on. Working with communities in gaming and software development. I also had to, get certified in some technical skills so that I'm able to guide the teams and the different communities in the right way.
Stacey, what was the motivation when you began your journey as a young student in your university, as a young student, and what has led you to push your work for empowering the community?
I'd say I opened my first business. That's what happened. I had my first business during campus. I've always been surrounded people who do business, so I didn't think it was a big deal. I knew the process to register, had had a lawyer to talk to. I think I was around 19, and while I was doing all that, I still experienced some infrastructure issues, whether it's how you're hosting your website, how you're getting payments. So that influenced what I was curious about in terms of fixing, in terms of who is doing it right, and how can I collaborate with them. And then that sort of just rippled or allowed me to assist other people. So that's how I ended up in consulting. Then consulting ended up paying more than running a tangible business or tangible products, selling that. So yeah, I've been in the leadership space since then, just working with startups from a strategic level view. Once that's happening, we're able to discuss items such as the product that you're putting in the market. Are you compliant as a business? Are you actually ready to receive funds? So that's essentially how what motivated me to end up here.
Your work is like an intersection of various sectors, cultures, and environments. And we have also seen that. My question primarily would be that how the this regional experience, I mean, the intersection of not only communities but also intersection of various aspects, various sectors as well. So, what has defined your leadership style, and what unique lessons that you have learned over the time period, specifically bringing forward the African voices?
I think first, let me maybe even just recognize that I met the founder of Silk Road through my work with Global Startup Awards. So I was a regional ambassador then. So the work of the regional ambassador is simply to validate different pitch decks that have been uploaded to the portal, and basically, participate in a sort of voting system of who was actually, the best person in that category. We never got the region that you're from, of course, to uh, nullify any sort of bias. But through that work, I was able to meet, Dr. Felipe, and I think for the last almost 3 years, we've just worked on different projects that really open up our minds. Especially now for him, he's getting my perspective in terms of what's happening on the grassroots, how is funding really trickling down, what are some of the needs that businesses have beyond funding. And then from his end, with his VP, Dr. David, they basically have, decades of experience in very niche sectors. So they're able to offer insight and advice on certain aspects. So, of course, now this shifts my leadership style to be more of a negotiator, especially now in the regional space that I serve. Not only just here in Kenya, but also some projects in Uganda, and also being able to extend through our contract with IBM. We have various developers across the region. So, of course, we need to know what's happening in their countries. That's a lot of conversations, a lot of testing, and yeah, being able to share that knowledge once it's curated.
I mean, these all experiences really shaped your leadership style and how you are looking at. And I would also like to share with all of those who are listening to us right now is that Stacey is also regional director in her capacity and in working very closely with Silk Road 4.0. I think that your experience, as you have also been mentioning, what different doors has opened up for you while you are connecting the entrepreneurs, innovators, and change makers through your representation at the SILKROAD 4.0, because this is a community that Dr. Philip and many other colleagues are jointly building up together. So I would really like to know about what are the different doors that has been opened for you and how this has helped you to elevate the voice from Africa.
So different doors, I think they're still opening because I really received this title this year. So we've not had a chance to really get into it. But some of the items that were possible was at least talking to the IBM regional director and, business business executive when we were working towards, receiving a sort of grant that they would have come in as partners. I don't think that would have been possible if Dr. Felipe wasn't on that email thread. There are a lot of cold emailing you do, and you just know they'll not get back to you. So there have been those opportunities. We also had a chance to participate in a report by William Davidson Institute. And of course, now I extended an invitation to Dr. David, who was also able to give his comments and knowledge to the researcher. I'll withhold her name for now, but the researcher who handled that report. So there have been just those instances where you're able to exchange knowledge and collaborate on projects that you wouldn't really have had a chance to do so. So it's through that international linkage that I'm appreciative of the network, and I'm looking forward. Even this interview, for example, would not have been possible without that. So, yeah, it's those little items.
And of course, while I was looking at the entire community that has been built, it is actually encouraging the young people to connect with the experienced people. I mean, it's a vibrant community that has been built by Silk Road 4.0. And this community, I would also like to ask you that what strengths do African members contribute to overall Silk Road 4.0's community and making it more richer and dynamic? Who are the other voices coming from, and what are the different talents that you see and energy that is contributing towards Silk Road 4.0? And I see also the lineup of speakers in Global Future Summit happening in few days. So what are the contribution from African continent?
I'd say for the African members, it really stands out because we are from such a dynamic and volatile market. You really can't be at the top forever. Technologies are forever changing. So it just really gives it gives the European and the US markets a run for their money. I think also Asia has shown that, like, the more people are upskilling and are exposed to the right technologies, the quicker an economy can build up. So at this, we are really just at that juncture or that crossroad where if we could really just have more conversations, we wouldn't have to repeat some of the mistakes that were made in earlier economies or industries, especially the nascent industries like that, the ones that are coming up, that sustainable energy, fintech. It's still borrowing from the old infrastructure of banks. So being able to have, I think a really good example is I had Dr. David actually just help me review a project, the one that's in Uganda, the fintech. And I also had someone else from Germany just review an active investor. And it was interesting to see that they both could relate with the model because most of their banks that started off through either farming or actual social capital, as opposed to how we are so leaning into blockchain and the rest. There's still that notion of the block or the foundation of any industry. So being able to have such diverse, information on one subject really broadens our hopes of actually making it further. Of course, I would talk about like minerals and all that, but I really do think the people is what really stands out. We do have really strong networks, community, trust, and that just propels a lot of businesses further, and that's not something you can find in other regions. So those are some of my points.
Yeah, thank you so much for highlighting that. Every region has their own moment that proves the value of the global connection, and I see that there's a lot of connections there and contribution made from Africa, especially when the Silk Road 4.0 is growing and the community is building. I mean, connecting with us, for example, the Diplomatic Insight and Diplo TV, we're all gathering together to share our conversations. I would like to ask you if you can share a story where there was a partnership made and the conversation that has lead to something for your valuable and truly represents the power of bridging Africa with the global partners. Could you like to share a story about that?
Yeah, sure. I think maybe a good example would be one of the speakers who will be participating on the 28th. His name is Steve Dimba, and he has a health tech startup. And what they've been doing or building has been quite, phenomenal. But of course, at the pace of the compliance that is in Africa, it might not feel like they've, grown as fast as they should. And putting funding aside, it really is, the health tech sector is a bit rigid, but they've managed to do so much with the little that they could get access to. So, having worked with him twice, first at a pitching event and then second as a speaker at one of my events, I had the chance to introduce him to Silk Road. And that now allows him to be able to share his message to a bigger platform. And of course, there are conversations around some of the startups we are considering for the 2026 cohort in terms of startup factory. But beyond those opportunities that he'll be able to tap into, it's really his message at the moment. If he's able to attract, the right investors, whether it's strategic or financial, that would be way better than him focused on what he can do within the country in that limitation of compliance.
I think that this is very important for putting spotlight on those fellow colleagues from the region, so that they can have a voice together there at such a huge platform. Africa is coming very fast and moving very fast. Where innovation, I see fintech, technology, green energy, and logistics, digital finance, everything is growing fast, and I see that there's a lot of acceptance of these changes as well. Looking ahead, Stacey, what are in next 3, 4, 5 years? What new opportunities do you see for African members in the Silk Road 4.0, and of course, overall, the ecosystem that is building up? What potential do you see that they think they have not yet recognized, or they are contributing more? I mean, the two part of the question was that one of the important is that. Do you think that the world hasn't fully recognized the potential, or if there is a potential, do you see in the future there is a recognition, or what are you seeing as trends?
So I think it's important to recognize that we have seen the potential. That's why, Africa is at the front of every conversation. But now the problem is, for Africans, we build, then ask questions later, and that really does work against us, because you'll see, other first world countries will rush and come and set up the policies and the frameworks. And now that political talk is what really now negates what the builders have done. And it's something I've seen again and again. It happened with tech, it's happening with AI. And slowly but surely, if we can be fluent in building as we are, or rather in policy as we are in building, maybe it would push us a longer way if we actually wanted to imagine what a united front would look like: infrastructure, standardization. You asked what are some of the opportunities. I think there are a lot of opportunities when it comes to data, and not just data to build your next large language model, but really data in terms of how are we able to understand whatever the region is. We have a way of looking at this data and being able to share that, share the models around it, share the formulas around it, be able to accurately calculate, what are some of these economic or macroeconomic indicators that really just limit, you know, our actual growth, or how we invest, whether it's through government to different sectors. uh, Taxation is also such a big issue. So maybe in the future, there'll be a lot of space for people who help businesses stay compliant, but not necessarily, end up bankrupt because you use most of the money to pay any sort of regulation. The last opportunity would definitely be in media, media and gaming. There's a lot happening there, in terms of gamification of systems, just having more immersive experiences, such as this. So I know that there's a lot of space and room for that.
Exactly. And Stacey, I would also like to know about your work in the consultancy where you are especially building up the community and the community engagement. How you are doing that community engagement, and what are the impacts that you are bringing up on that front?
Okay, so when it comes to community, have the developers and the creatives. For the developers, we have those who are internal working on, of course, our specific projects. But then we have something under the arm of IBM Tech Training, which we are actually on the second cohort of doing. We had to Currently, our contract with IBM is silver status, but of course, now to get to a place where we are also trading and making sure we are staying certified, we take in trainees, help them achieve their certification, which is recognized worldwide. And then from there, they can deploy a project which can either be commercially viable or can be incorporated into one of our existing projects. So it's community engagement is not just, asking people to buy items from you. It ends up being, how are you servicing this community? How are you making sure they have what they need, whether it's in terms of information, certification, recognition, or even just having the space and tools to environment, especially to bring forth what they imagine. If they want to, like we have interns who really work with data really well, set up workflows that are fantastic, and that allows us to be able to, execute on projects. But beyond this, there's still an urge for being able to keep them curious, keep them paid, keep them hungry for the next project. So yeah, it's really the small things, because you don't want to end up in a situation like Facebook where you have to get down to the scientific model of it, of
Exactly.
the signals. Yeah, yeah. You just really want to engage them in a healthy way, engage them in a sane way, so that they can stay at it.
Can you share a few of the challenges that you face while working with these communities, these developers, and people who are connected with you?
I think, like all systems, it's usually the communication. That one is always going to be there. I think no matter how many documents you have, no matter how many channels you offer, there'll still be need for the human intervention way of doing it. We can't really automate everything away. You still need people who understand what you're doing. So, of course, now that brings in the people element in terms of explaining hierarchies, explaining permissions. When you're building up systems, you also have to consider that. I think one more would definitely be the curve, just that upwards curve before they actually understand the content. That one is really a strong one.
And how are you making the solution possible for them through the consistency?
Essentially, uh, it really, in terms of not just JFS or even what we're doing for gaming or even currently for IBM, it ends up being usefulness cannot be measured by there's no average usefulness. Satisfaction is not something that, and I know we do NPS and all these surveys, but when it comes to the current generation especially, you have to be very mindful of what you're putting forward as their benefit. It to you maybe it's a benefit, but to them it's not that. So having these conversations, focus groups, being able to ask the hard questions, like especially during the team meetings, um, that's team and also just IBM support calls, being able to just ask over and over again, no matter how deafening it sounds, if people are not responding or if they're not as active. I think attrition is also something else for communities. We really want to maintain 100 people, go to 200 people, but we forget there'll be leaks, in between.
Exactly. Yeah,
People get
exactly.
bored, life happens. So their seasons also change. Their founders I knew before they had children, now they have children. No, they don't have that time to go for all this capacity training. They want to
Yes.
get to the point. Yeah, so the benefits will always morph, and it's important for you to be mindful of that and morph with them. So yeah, just being able to refresh your database is also something that can help you do that.
Thank you, Stacey. And I would like to ask you that more young women and men leaders are preparing for the globe for joining this Global Future Summit, and they are joining this community of building up through you, of course, looking at you, your inspiring journey, your work in tech. What message would you like to share with them, and what mindset should they bring as they enter into the global forums and global arenas?
I think my general message would be they should stay curious. We really don't know everything. It's just the ability to know that it's very humbling. To always remember there's still more knowledge out in the world than what we know or are able to hold in our brain. So just extend that. So if you're coming to this network or ecosystem, just be very curious, listen, learn from others, extend your own knowledge, also for them to get to learn. And that way we just have a more immersive ecosystem as opposed to, we can only listen to those who are, it's really, academia is beautiful, don't get me wrong, but as someone who's also pursuing her postgraduate right now, it's also just a reminder that book smart will always just be the other half of being street smart. So I hope all walks of life are able to come and share the message with us, tell us what
Yes.
they are building, be able to ask for help, be able to say, I only need X amount of funding, be able to, validate that product and get them the funding would be such a beautiful joy of mine. But yes, that's my message.
Thank you so much, Stacey, for sharing such a wonderful and important message of staying curious. And for you to stay curious, you need to join us for the Global Future Summit happening on 28th of November, and it will be live streamed across the world. We will be joining that summit from 20 plus countries, different regions, regional hubs, and Stacey representing Africa, a very important Africa region, representing this important platform as a regional director from Africa. There will be a lot of conversation happening, speeches will be made, and of course, people who will be joining us there in the summer, they will share many lessons, especially related to the latest technology. Thank you so much, Stacey. Stacey has a background of looking after she is the managing director of Modus Chora Studio and also regional director for SILKROAD 4.0 Global Future Summit from Africa region. Thank you so much, Stacey, for being with us. And thank you so much for all of you for listening to us in our conversation. We will be sharing more interviews, more conversation with you when you will be joining us. This interview will be live streamed, will be shared on our all Diplo TV and of course SILKROAD 4.0's YouTube channel. You will be watching us. If you have any question, please do send us an email, or my colleagues who will be responding to you, love to talk to you, and what you have in mind. You can always look up to SILKROAD 4.0 or reach out to us at Diplomatic Insight or Diplo TV. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be signing off, but not saying goodbye, but we'll be coming back again with another conversation from another amazing, excellent colleague from SILKROAD 4.0's community from across the world. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll be joining you soon. Thank you so much.